Introduce yourself.
My name is Christopher Lamont Gordon. I'm 35 years old. I was called Killeen, Texas, my home, if I had one.
What was life like growing up in Texas?
Well, life like Texas was, everything's big. Life growing up in general for me was lonely, I'm gonna say. For the simple fact, I grew up single parent home, excuse me. And it was a military household, so I was basically Army bred. And you had to constantly move. So what happened was I grew into a comfortable stance of alone. Never get too attached to anybody because you was always moving. So I pretty much became introvert. And I developed my own ways of thinking and basically depended on my own emotional stability, not really just pulling from anything else around me because everything was always changing. So in that sense, life growing up was lonely.
How did you get involved with the gang lifestyle?
The gang lifestyle. Well, after I spent 2 years out there in Florida, I came back to Texas at 15. And I was already merging into the street atmosphere. I didn't have too much of a role model because the way I came back to Texas was in a runaway fashion. I had just came from a boys' home. After being out there with my brother, we had bumped heads, and that's kind of when I got introduced more to the street life. To make a long story short, I ended up getting back in contact with my mother. I came back to Texas with the rebellious mentality, a teenager, and I started going back to school. Well, I was stayed in Killeen, Texas, close to Fort Hood, and a lot of those soldiers there were in the military. You have to realize that they were ex-gang members or gang members that were looking for a better way that made it into the military. And what happened was they brung their chapter or organizations through the military. Though they were trained soldiers, they were still, from the cultural perspective, gang members. And where I was living at, they brung it to the high school and neighborhood areas, and with the people that I was hanging out with, they were influential. I was already rebellious, and before you know it, I had got down with the Gangsta Disciples, and I was still going to school, but slowly but surely, I got in trouble in school. I got kicked out of school, and after I got kicked out of the district, I couldn't play football anymore. I moved on all the way into the streets. I was what they call a shorty. Street organization wise, our chapter, we used to call it Ghost. And what that means is gangsters honoring our soldiers' trust. Street slogans, street slang. But what happened was, the chapter I was up under, we was 4 or 5 of us in the area that I was in, up under a regional director that basically spread in the Central Texas area. And before you know it, we was just taking shots, doing things at nighttime that, gang members do, drinking, smoking, so-called protecting our turf, waiting for the orders of these, what they call licks, and we're carrying them out. And before you know it, we were seeing a little bit of money, And one thing leading to another, you know, I ended up catching a robbery case in the parking lot one night with some of my folks. In a matter of 3 months, I went from playing football in high school to on my way to the Texas State Penitentiary. And it happened so fast, it still takes me sometimes as I think about it. I got into the gang life, and I carried that gang life down into the penitentiary because I was so rebellious and disrespectful to my mother that she didn't have no control over me, and I knew how to stay away from the house. I loved her dearly, but I kept these guys away from the house the majority of the time. She only knew a handful of my friends, but she didn't know how deep I was in, and the name that I was making for myself out there. I was cocky. I didn't feel like I could get caught. And it all ended that night, 1997, May 5th. The police came and surrounded my friend's house, which was one of my folks. And I got walked off in a pair of Nike socks and some boxers, never to be seen again until 18 years later. So, the gang life, one of the biggest mistakes that I made.
Are you the only one that went to prison that night?
No. Matter of fact, my fall partner, his name's Johnny White. He made it out before me. I had ended up getting 30 years. He had ended up getting 20. The dude that was a juvenile, he was 16, little Demetrius, ended up getting 9 months. TYC, which is the Texas Youth Commission. He got 9 months because he told on him. So, you know, it didn't pay to be 17 that night, but, you know, crime doesn't pay. Bad decisions, you pay for them. That's what happened. 3 of us went to jail that night. 2 of us went to the penitentiary for over a decade. 1 bad choice.
What was prison like?
Prison, I would have to describe prison as like walking through a museum, a funny mirrors museum of the unexpected. It's like the college of the hard knocks. You know, you go in not knowing what to expect, and prison life for me, I can say ultimately was a growing experience of bad and good. You just have to have a stomach for the corruption and the evil that exists around you in the daily. And basically, it's either going to make you stronger or it's going to destroy you. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. But prison life is segregated, very racial, very degrading. You don't have any rights. You, on the inside, literally no voice. They can cut you off at any time. The administration, I've seen them, inmates come up murdered, missing. I've seen the gang-related wars. I've seen just rape, extortions. You know, it's madness, 24/7. But at the same time, it's a reality that these places and these things do exist on a level that society's not conscious of. And from then to now, prison life has changed dramatically for the better as far as the safety of the inmates. But when it comes down to the basic understanding of prison life, the only thing I can say is to each his own once the door is closed.
So before you made your change, what was prison like for you? Like, what was your personal experience? How were you in prison?
Well, I came down angry. I had 30 years aggravated for aggravated robbery. And I remember from the county, after I got my time, they had put me in a solitary cell because I was one of the youngest guys that year and got that much amount of time. I remember it was election time where the judge was running up for re-election, so I had bad timing coming up to get sentenced. When I got my sentence, it was unexpected because the lawyer had hoodwinked me. It's a process that they call in the system where the DA makes deals with the lawyers. I was a court-appointed lawyer. They call it horse trade, where they make deals and swap outs when you really don't have any money. So here it was, I was 17 years old with no money, court-appointed lawyer, and a gang-related juvenile. He sent me upstate, and when I did get there, I had the mentality of, I don't care. Here it is, I was mad, I was frustrated. I didn't understand why this was happening to me, even though I did understand what caused it. For some reason, I just felt like nothing could ever happen to me this bad. And before I know it, here it is. So I adapted. What I did, I bought into this image and my circumstances. And I began to get worse, as in how I operated and functioned within the system. My gang, my folks, my gangsters. I chose false sense of love now as I see it and understand it today for them to be the most important thing to me. So I went down. And because I came from the area that I had come from, my area was known for the highest population of GEs in Texas because of the military base. So when I went in, I didn't go to the penitentiary and get down with anything like a lot of them guys did. I came from an organized street chapter, which kind of gave me a little instant status, but I was still what they call a shorty, which was just a young disciple. And disciples, when they go into the institution, you go into what they call a chain of command. So the day that I hit the unit, the whole organization knew about it. And what happens next is they have security come, and the guy comes and introduces himself to me as a security, and he tells, basically you're up on observation for the next 6 months. This is what we're not gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. They don't let me see who's calling the shots or anything, but there was a couple of guys that was assigned with me to kind of show me the ropes, how to move, the small basic, code of ethics that operate within inside the penitentiary. When to mind your business, when not to be here, how to turn your head on this, and basically everything's gonna be all right. So I went in, I fell into the chain of command, and before I knew it, man, I had got comfortable. And the way I looked at it was like, man, you know what? This is gonna be my life. So I might as well do it good, do it all the way. And I was full-fledged. I couldn't even see the world anymore. I didn't care about my family out here. I was concerned about them, but I was so distant and so separated that my folks were my family. And I just bought into everything that came with that. So that was my lifestyle up until 2009. So you're talking about 1997 up to 2009. And I'm gonna say 2009, even though I was conscious of what I was doing, slowly but surely I was growing up out of it. Because one thing I did do while I was in there is in this organization here, they make it protocol that you get your GED, that you educate yourself. So I had to go to school. That was an operation, that was a function of the organization. Not many organizations, be gangs, whatever you want to call them, Crip Bloods, make it mandatory that you get your GED and go to school. But the thing was, with them, at any given time, if there was some call to the family, you would have to put whatever progress you're doing to the side to go deal with whatever was going on inside the institution. And there was always something going on. So it was like I was on call for the gangster call. And what happened was I ultimately got used to living a double life. And as I educated myself, you know, there were times to where I had to put all that down and sacrifice what I was doing, which delayed me through the years. And it gave me a sense of duality, which is a bad habit. I say bad habit because I never became accustomed with just doing one thing and focusing in on one thing. It was always something that I was looking for that was wild and radical to happen. And, you know, that was basically the gist of my lifestyle for that that large time frame, 97 to 2009. That's when I moved into a different unit. So, 2009, I hit what they call McConnell unit, and that's way in South Texas, closer to the border. I just turned 30. I was 29. And when I got to McConnell unit, I had already went and put in for the disassociation program that they have in Texas for gang members. But I had been on the Ferguson unit, which was the unit I hit in 97 to 2009. I had been over there for so long and I had such a messed up reputation. I had been the administrator SIG. And the reputation I carried over there, the gang unit, what they call the GI, gang intelligence, within the system, they didn't allow me to get off file because they felt that I was real manipulative. So when I got transferred to another unit, they sent the file with me. And basically they were saying to the gang intelligence on that unit to watch me, that I'm highly manipulative, and that I should be observed for a remainder of 2 years. Well, the GI over there, he asked me, and he kind of felt like, you know, he was gonna give me a shot. So I finally got off file, and I told myself, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and chill now. And I finished, started to continue to go to college, went and got some more trades, and I started just getting a sense of doing right. And that was the beginning of, I guess, what I call the next phase, which led me into the transition of where I am right now. But still, you know, I wasn't following the Lord. And I was just getting a sense of doing right without no ulterior motive. But I still had to break that habit of duality, was functioning on the side. So from 2009 up until, I want to say 2013, I had finished some more, you know, trades and schooling and things like that. That was basically the point that led me up to, you know, understanding where I was at and really where I wanted to be at. I was basically getting tired of my conditions. I was ready to start coming home, and things started happening then.
What was the thing that caused you to turn your life around?
The thing that caused me to turn my life around, I think there were many attributes, but the one main event that totally broke me and sent me into submission to Jesus was I had just got a 2-year set off, and I was seen doing everything I was supposed to be doing, and for some reason, I was just like, man, I don't understand. A 1-year set off, and then a 2-year set off. So to me, that was like a new sentence. Well, fresh into my 2-year set off, I was working electrical maintenance at the unit, and it kept me busy. It helped me to pass my time, but every day I seemed to be growing more and more frustrated. And I happened to meet the woman that I'm with today at the job. Well, she actually happened to be an officer there doing overtime. And what happened was, whenever I go doing preventive maintenance on a unit, she would be assigned to, my car. So she was a supervising officer, and we had spent some months just, spending time as I worked throughout the day. But we established that relationship. She was working her way through school, and she was about to quit. But she was eagerly waiting to pursue the next level of our relationship, as you want to call it. And she had wrote me. They had caught the letter. She had quit, and I got in trouble. So here it is. I was on a 2-year set off, meaning that I would have to wait another 2 years before I was even eligible to go home. And what happened was, they came because it's a security breach, a risk for an officer and inmate to have a relationship. And I'm fresh off a 2-year set off, so now I get locked up. Well, before I got locked up, with no anticipation of, or no expectancy of this about to take place, I was expecting a visit from my mother. And she had scheduled what they call a special visit, where, because she was coming from Virginia flying to Texas, she would get 2 days, a 4-hour visit. And it was a contact, And she would try to fly down at least once a year, but at this point I haven't seen my mother in about 2 years now. And I was sitting back there, I remember, in my solitary cell, wondering how in the world did I just find myself in such a down and out state. My circumstances just seemed to be crumbling all around me. And it's summertime, and back there they don't have any plug-ins except for downstairs. So I was fortunate enough to get a cell downstairs. And I remember I'm back there thinking, like, how in the world can I let my mother know, because the weekend was coming up for me to get the visit that I was supposed to get, and let her know that I was going to be in solitary and we might not be able to have a contact visit where I can hug and tell her I love her and stuff like that. Well, I'm back there, and it just seemed that even in my detrimental situation, God was working. And I remember I laid down and I was trying to put it on FM so I can listen to my rap station, R&B station or something, and it wouldn't come in. So I put the radio on AM because I was so depressed and so disrupted about everything that was taking place. 2 years set off, just got in trouble, got locked up behind having a relationship. I wasn't even sure at that point in time that the woman that I had got in trouble with, she was worth it. But she ended up being worth it, still is today. I was waiting, and I was just looking for any way out of this situation right here. And I found myself just talking to God, like, man, here we go again. And I just got to reflecting on everything that was happening in my life and how long I've been in this place. I found myself getting mad at the system, getting mad at everything that had anything to do with the system. And I was just talking to God. I'm like, man, I said, I know things can always be worse, And I haven't been doing what I'm supposed to be doing all the way, but at least I've been doing things to get better. And at least I'm not doing this, at least I'm not doing that. Well, I went to sleep and I was listening to AM. And when I woke up, the AM station was on a church station down there, and it was all about revival. I went to sleep again. I woke back up, and the station was still, after sermon was always talking about revival. And what happened was, even though I wasn't supposed to get a contact visit, God had seen fit that when my mother came to visit me that weekend, she had went through some trials and tribulations, because what happened was, when she came to the unit, they go through the security checks, and come to find out, by the time it was time for us to get our visit, she was expecting a contact, and they told her at the last minute she wasn't aware that I was going to be behind glass and on the telephone. And they told her that, and I remember she was telling me what took place. Well, the same administrators that locked me up and had known me through the years to be, manipulative, gang related. God put favor on their heart for us to have that one contact visit, because she had flew that far. So the major of the unit and what they call the safe prison coordinator of the unit approved for us to have a contact visit. Well, I walk into the visitation room after, let me rewind. What happened was, they walked me out in handcuffs and shackles and put me in what they call the administrative segregation visitation. I sat there for 30 minutes. And then the woman came back and said, "Gordon?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "I don't know what happened, but for some reason you're getting approved to contact visit her Major Officer Major Gonzalez." I'm like, "Man, what?" She's like, "Yeah, go ahead and take the handcuffs off." So I put my hands to the slot, took the handcuffs off, let them undo my feet. I'm like, "Man, I don't know how this happened, God, but man, I so appreciate it." In my mind, I'm talking. I go and I see my mother, and I see her eyes red from crying. And when I see my mother crying, it really just broke my heart. I'm talking about, she came and gave me a hug, and I'll never forget. She said, "Man, I just need to hug my son." And something in me just broke. Like, I'll never be able to explain it, but it was purely spiritual. That where it seems like everything just fell off of me. All intent to do anything that would extend my stay in that place, that would keep me away from my family and the opportunity to be back out here. It just broke up off of me. We had a good visit. I assured her that I was going to do everything that I could to maintain a clean walk, and just to steer clear from madness, and to continue to grow closer to God. Because even then I was straddling the fence, and I made up my mind that day. I say, never again will I do anything to extend my stay here. And what I'm going to do is start shedding everything that could continue to keep me in the place that I was at in that moment. So I went back to the cell, and I got down. I didn't go to an altar to get saved, but rededicate my life to God. What I did is I gave it all up to God once and for all, and I told him I don't know how I'm going to be able to step back from my organization, the relationships that I established with some of my guys, but I just told God, man, just to take me and make me over. And when I came out of solitary, I got sent to a lower class to where I had to work my way back up. I did. I stayed down there, what they call a medium custody, around, a bunch of rambunctious, very juvenile, immature guys, where it's easy to get stuck down there because of the stuff that goes on. I made it back up to what they call minimum custody. And I was coming back up for parole. It took a year and a half. When I came back up for parole, I got what they call the F5, which is approved. And God's just made a way. He opened up the doors, and I was also seeing the change as I took a transition to serving him and him only, not with no concessions or making any exemptions for trying to serve God how I want to serve him. I totally surrendered to him. I realized that I had a peace within, and the influence that was being imparted to the guys that I dealt with on a daily basis. It was powerful to see how some of my own gang members had left it alone, meaning the functions of the organization, to not follow me, but follow the light that Christ had put in me. And I'm still in contact with these brothers today. But as I left there, you know, I got a lot of affirmations of words of encouragement, saying to continue my walk. And you know, I am and I will, because I realized that at that time in visitation, when I seen my mother crying, God was showing me that without him, I'm always going to end up tripping and stumbling and falling. That there's no way to implement my own way of serving him. That I had to totally surrender. And that's why I realize and understand that God wants broken hearts. And that brokenness put me beyond that point of no return. So I know that I can't do it without him. I depend on him. I love the Lord. And you know, all my ambitions has just been there. So
Okay. What's the biggest difference in life between before you went in and after you got out?
The biggest difference. What was taboo when I went in, such as homosexuality, the what I would call basic decencies. It's like nothing even matters anymore. You know, the biggest difference I could say is as far as like technology wise, things of that nature. You know, when I went in, they didn't have cell phone. Everything is flamboyant. Everything is faster. You know, when I went in, you had to actually spend some time at trying to court a woman. Actually had to show some type of interest. Now it seems like the women and the TVs shows everything is sexually explicit. It's even more so than something you can't even turn on a commercial. All the cartoons, they're sexually explicit. Everything is just, and you can just tell how slowly but surely the world is coming under the grasp of the enemy, because these things are desensitized now, as opposed to in 1997. Though there's nothing new up under the sun, it was at least a section part of society that operated in that fashion. So I think it's like night and day as far as, you know, technology and the sexual outwardness toward people's social dealings with each other. You know, TV, man, the children, you know, everything's fast and advanced. So it's like, you know, it's like going into the time zone, the time capsule, and waking up. And everything is like, you know, bigger and faster and you say more explicit.
Okay. Last question. What advice would you give your younger self or another youth that was going down the same path you were?
Wow. My advice I would give to my younger self, and God willing, would eventually would come to be my son was to be careful what you value, the people that you associate yourself with and look up to ultimately make up your identity, unconsciously and consciously. I would advise them to take heed to not the things that's said, but to the things that are not said. To understand that actions really do speak louder than words. And most of all, to know yourself. That way you have something to stand on. Because when you don't know yourself, you go any which way the wind blows. And that's usually down that path, the destined regret. That path that I traveled because I didn't know myself and I was trying to find myself. And in the process of finding myself, I found people that I thought knew who they were. And I looked at society amongst this group and seen how everybody looked at me, which gave me a false identity, a miseducation, and just by the grace of God that I was pulled from that. But it cost me the last 18 years of my life. Moses went into the wilderness too, so, you know, I look at examples of the Bible and I realize that most of all, to know that you have purpose in your identity, that's crucial. That's crucial.
Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanna give honor and praise to my Lord, my Savior, Jesus Christ. I just want to thank the Lord for everything that I didn't see. For the people such as my mother who stuck by me through the years when I've given her ample reasons to give up. The true definition of love she's shown me. From the day I went in, even though our relationship wasn't as strong as it could have been, she's my best friend now. To my baby sister, who I seen grow up from the sideline of life. I regret not being there to be able to protect her, but she's still here today. She's grown into a beautiful woman. Most of all, to the opportunities, such as with Brother Jerry right here, to push forth the message, God's kingdom being implemented in our lives today, whoever this may run across, that all things are possible. All things are possible through our Lord and Savior. And with that, I'm signing out.